Hi, it's Chris Watkin here, and I'm joined by Tony Ruby, a long-established estate agent from Grantham in Lincolnshire, who, at the age of how old?
45.
45, has decided to up sticks from his very well-paid job, valuing, big agent in town, big market share, and setting up his own estate agency. When did you decide that you wanted to become an estate agent?
I think ironically it goes back to probably when I was a newspaper boy who used to deliver newspapers to a very well-known estate agent in Sleaford. I used to put the newspaper through the door. It was a free newspaper, so I used to do it week in, week out. And I was always intrigued by what was going on behind the door. The reality is I didn't get into estate agency till I was almost 30 years old.
Okay. What did you do before then?
So I left school and went to college in Grantham in 1992. Had 3 years there. Started working on weekends and evenings at Morrison's in Grantham in the Isaac Newton Centre there. Worked with some fantastic people. Gave me a really good indication as to what proper work ethic looked like. I was sort of doing 2 nights a week and a full day Saturday. And I really started the job so I could start to learn to drive and buy a car. I was at college in Grantham as well, so my social circle was starting to move Grantham way. And it was a great foundation to be able to sort of go to work a couple of nights a week. And when there was holidays on, I'd go and work extra and do more hours to earn more money.
Why do you love Grantham so much that you haven't moved away?
It's always been home. I was born in the hospital in 1976. I think there's a lot of people who live in Grantham who perhaps don't give it the credit it deserves. But for me, as a family man living in the area, having a family of my own, a young family of my own, schooling is a great attraction. There's the obvious things like the transport links. I think you could do a lot worse for locations to call home.
So you were at college. What courses were you doing at college?
I did a travel and tourism course, and I also did business and finance in BTEC.
So you did your 3 years there. What happened after that?
So I think typically, because I had a job, I kind of ended up falling into a full-time position with Morrison's. There was an opportunity to do a management trainee course, which I applied for. Apparently it's one of those things where there's like 900 applicants and only 27 positions. I was lucky enough to secure one. It was a proper full-on 60-hour week and taking home £8,000 a year. And we were learning some really key skills and understanding the detail of retail. But it just wasn't quite for me. It was sort of a very intrusive time because they just started Sunday opening as well. So you'd find yourself often doing 7 days a week. I was a young man playing football, enjoying perhaps nights out with friends and stuff. And it just didn't quite fit for me. And then I got friendly with a guy called Paul, who I'm still good friends with now. And he'd just seen an opportunity to go down to what used to be the Swallow Hotel on Swingbridge Road for Currys, the electrical superstore, who were moving from the High Street premises down to the London Road site, which of course is now Marks and Spencer's Food Hall.
Okay, so you went to work for Currys then?
Yeah, that's right.
Selling microwaves and ovens and...
Microwaves, dishwashers, the first iPods, video cameras, which are significantly bigger than these things here, computers, which were £2,500. Yeah, it was a really great time. So we went there as a new store opening, which was a very exciting thing. It was pretty much a new team. There was probably 25% of the existing team from the High Street branch. Made some fantastic friendships there. One of them was my best man when I got married 6 years ago. So still great.
So how old were you when you went into Currys?
I would have been 21, in fact, just before my 21st birthday.
Okay, and how long were you there?
I had 6.5 years, 7 years with Currys. Worked my way up the ladder to deputy manager number 1, which was just above deputy manager number 2. So there's 3 management in the branch. And really enjoyed my time there.
What did you learn there that you were able to bring into a estate agency later on?
I think for me, it was quite clear when I was talking to customers, they didn't want selling to. They wanted advice, they wanted guidance, they wanted help. That you're stood in front of a TV wall where there's everything from 14-inch down to 36-inch, if you like, was the biggest at the time, and these great big units and varying different price points. People wanted help to decide what they thought would be best for their lounge at that point. And the same could be applied for a washing machine or any other electrical product. So for me, it was about getting a good knowledge of the range, understanding what the benefits would be to a prospective client, and then trying to fit something in with their budget.
Okay, so how did a washing machine salesman turn into an estate agent?
Well, an opportunity arose. Curry's at the time used to be every Saturday, day off in the week, and one Sunday in 3 or 4. But they started to bring in a contract, which was 5 out of 7 rolling contract, which meant that you would be working 5 days on, obviously out of the 7, and 2 days off would probably be Tuesday, Wednesday. You know, I was a 23, 24, 25-year-old young man.
You like your football. You love your football. Because you follow Lincoln, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Lincoln City through and through. And that's been a 40-year love affair. Not always good, but it's been for me it was a awkward decision to make because I really love the people, I really love the place, fantastic environment and a great camaraderie. Christmases were hard work but lots of fun. And in my mind, I wanted to do something which gave me a little bit more freedom at weekends. So I applied to work in various different manufacturing, sort of white goods manufacturers, one of them being Whirlpool UK. I think now they've been bought out by Indesit, who own Hotpoint and various others. Their head office was down in Croydon, but they wanted a territory trainer, really, sort of a sales manager, an area sales manager, covering Lincolnshire right down to sort of Northamptonshire and Warwickshire. But it meant that I could have my weekends, you know, and I could go out and I could deliver training to the large electrical retailers like Curry's, Powerhouse, there's a name we've forgotten about, Comet, another name we've forgotten about, but also build relationships with independent electrical retailers, so several in Sleaford and Grantham, for example, like Brewer and Allen and Castledines in Sleaford, and you'd be really sort of trying to build a relationship so you could gain more shop floor space for your appliances to stand.
Okay. At this time, had you met your wife by this time?
No, not yet.
So you're young, free and single, ready to mingle.
Yeah.
And I think you had a previous partner, didn't you?
Yeah.
So how did that again? So you're now advising people how to sell washing machines. How long were you at that job with Indesit before you moved across?
Probably for 3.5, 4 years. It got to a point where the area sales management team had been created. There was 13 positions across the country, but there wasn't really a stepping stone into national sales or national account management. There was a key account manager position came up, and it was very much something that I was interested in. So I decided to put my heart on my sleeve and say, yes, I'm in for that. It would have meant probably relocating down to London at the time, to Croydon area, which wasn't a problem. I saw that as being quite an exciting opportunity. And what I found was that there was 2 people at the sales team that went for it, and I got a second interview along with another person who happened to be part of the IT department at Croydon on Purley Way, and they got the position. And I think they got the position because the IT department was being sort of shut down and moved on and was being outsourced.
How did that make you feel?
Yeah, I was gutted. I think like anything, whenever you go after a job, you put your heart and soul into it. You make sure you're prepared right. You make sure you do your damnedest on the day to give it your all. I thought I'd done particularly well, particularly get to the second interview stage because there was only 2 of us that got that far. And yeah, it left a little bit of a taste. You think, well, I can't really see the way forward now. It sort of put the light at the end of the tunnel. It really put a blanket over it.
Okay. So what did you do next?
This is where it comes back to the estate agency. I'd started to sort of think about, and explore a little bit more about estate agency. For me, it was something that was, I suppose in my mind, was one of these things that you need to be well educated, you need certain qualifications to be able to get into a position. And I just started sort of researching on what estate agency positions are out there. Now, at the time, what I did is I wrote to probably 10 or 11 agents.
What year was this?
This would be 2005, 6 sort of time.
Okay, so the market was flying along quite nicely.
It was good, yeah. It was very good. Late 2006, I would have thought it would have been, actually. Yeah,
so were you looking at other industries, or was it just this natural, this thing at the back of your mind, just flicking your...
For me, it was kind of what I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it now, and I need to try and make this happen now.
And this all came back from you delivering leaflets?
The newspapers, yeah, the free newspaper to this particular office every week, and that's why I ended up working, bizarrely. As a young man growing up, there's a guy a couple of doors down who's now a very good surveyor, who worked for them at the time, and I think he's now in the surveying department. I think he may well be back there. And he used to turn up for his lunch and sort of pull up in this smart-looking car. And I was probably, like I said, 5 or 6 years younger than him, I should think. You sort of look at him and think, oh, God, I'll have a look at that. So again, there was a little seed set as a young man. And what I decided to do was write to 10 or 11 agents. I sent my CV along with it as well. and waited for the phone to ring, and it didn't. Until one day out of the blue, I had this call, and he just sort of said, "Look, we've got your CV. I'd like to sit down and talk to you if that's all right. Can you come over to Lincoln?" It was. So I went over to Lincoln and met with this guy, and we had a good chat, and he sort of said, "Yeah, I think we can do something." 6 months later, so I started out as a negotiator. 6 months later, I got several letters back from some of the other agencies, sort of saying that they didn't think I was personality-wise, an ideal fit for estate agencies.
Had they met you though?
No. No.
Strange.
And at this
it?
point, I was listing well. Maybe that's one of those people. Actually, is a good friend of mine. I've been on many trips with, and we've always had a little bit of a laugh about it. So. The next role was interesting. I can honestly say I don't think it was something that sort of just completely got my fire burning bright. It was great fun. Again, great people, really busy, vibrant office with significant numbers of negotiators in there, so you'd have sort of a bit of hot desking and upstairs for a bit of sales progression. And I'd heard whispers that there was 3 valuers at this particular branch, that one was going, one was leaving. He was going out the door. So I thought, well, what have I got to lose? I might as well just throw my hat in the ring and just tell them I'd be interested if they'd give me some consideration. I didn't know if it was the right thing to do, but I thought what it did do is it showed my intention. So I threw my hat in the ring, and
What year was this?
This would be 2007,
Okay.
Late 2007.
Okay.
So I threw my hat in the ring, and I sort of said that this is what I'd really like to do. I'd seen the valuers really as being a negotiator, as kind of being these people, I suppose, maybe had this awesome job of...
They basically swan in, don't they? Then you see them all day, and then they come back, and they've been sit down with cups of tea, haven't they?
The morning meeting would kind of be, we'd be in this really busy office. There'd be plenty of negotiators who were shouting up the deals and everything else and what they were working on, and these valuers would wander in, and it was like they were riding in on some white horse, and they'd got all the next listings to sell and what they were going to put on the market that day. And I just looked at it and thought, you know what, I can see how that, with the skills I'd developed with working for things like Whirlpool, and I think also for Currys as well, were very transmissible into that particular role. And I threw my hat in the ring, and I was lucky enough, I think probably by chance, to just happen to be the most mature one in the office. And I mean in age, probably not in mindset, but in age. And they probably felt that it was, if they were going to give anybody a go, I was perhaps the best fit. Most of the other people in the office may well have been younger to me by maybe between 4 and 10 years maybe. Probably by chance and by luck, I went out valuing, or training to value, with a phenomenal operator who is still in the estate agency industry, based at Lincoln Way. And he just gave me a different insight into how things were done, because I think when I went into the training role, the negotiator role, there wasn't really a lot of training. It was kind of, here's a phone, here's a computer, just crack on. But with this guy, and I'll give him a shout out, Rob Beaumont, he's fantastic. He took me out, and we really spent a couple of weeks just watching and learning and making loads of notes and just reading through the notes at the end of every day. And he had a certain demeanour about himself.
What else did you learn not to do with Rob?
I think what Rob was very good at doing was making sure that you sort of understood what was exactly expected of you when you were meeting these clients in their homes. I think Rob would also be the one who probably opened my eyes to the small things in life, like making sure you take your shoes off at the door, or at least making that offer, particularly on a wet day. And breaking the ice with people. I think, again, I've seen it all too often where people go through the door and it's almost straight into this, rehearsed sales pitch, if you like, something that you could almost do with your eyes shut. I think what Rob really gave me a good insight into was that, getting somebody comfortable in that first 10 minutes and talking to them openly about the weather and the pets and the dog and the family and everything else is probably the most important 10 minutes you'll spend in that appointment, and the rest of it kind of follows on from there, really. So I think Rob was very good at sort of pointing out what probably most others would consider to be the way of doing it, how isn't always the way to do it. 2007, I was valuing and I suppose as the third valuer in this really busy office, but I was turning results. Somebody then left at the Sleaford branch, and that then seemed to be this opportunity for me to go there. It was this nice spec-up Astra that was given out at the time, so so it just seemed to be like a natural step for me. It was an area I knew particularly well.
Because you lived there, had you moved to them by then?
And I grew up there for complete clarity. So it was an area that I was, well known, and bought a house in Sleaford as well, because at the time when I bought my first house, Sleaford was about 20% cheaper than Grantham. And whilst I was working at Curry's, I could stick the 25-minute journey in the car every morning and every evening without shackling this massive mortgage around my neck, or what was perceived to be a massive mortgage at the time.
Why aren't you still a letting agent now? What happened then?
There was a restructure at the time. I remember being in my office in Sleaford, and there was rumour and talk of perhaps lettings going central into Lincoln, whereas I used to look after Sleaford, Grantham and Boston, so sort of South Lincolnshire. And I sort of asked the question to one of the partners at the time, the junior partners. I said, I've got a funny feeling I need to be slightly concerned about my position here. And their exact words still ring in my ears now, even though it's 11 years on. Tony, you never need to worry about your position with us. So I made my way to Lincoln. It was a tough thing, because only a few months beforehand I'd met my now wife. She was living over towards Melton Mowbray. Of course, spending time together, but getting to Lincoln every morning was kind of challenging enough in its own respect. Lincoln's not an easy place to get into the centre of on a morning, or a work morning. And one Friday, November the 25th, 2010, about 5 o'clock in the evening on a Friday, the door swings open, and in walks the junior partner. And I thought, this is a bit odd, and basically made me redundant there and then. So I was put on leave for a month, if you like. I was employed, I suppose, technically till the end of December, and the immediate thought was complete panic.
So 2013, you joined Newton and Fallowell.
Yeah.
Did they approach you, or did you?
It was interesting. I love Newton Fallowell and always have. And what I remember of my later days, particularly with my previous employer to Newton Fallowell, is walking past the Newton Fallowell office, sort of looking at it, thinking, oh yeah, I'd love to be there one day.
There's
So
there's some great people there. You've got Gavin, who's on the front line, and you've got and was Mark still in the business at this point?
Yeah, Mark's still very much in the business, even actively today. Mark and David Spatman, David Newton, Gavin,
Great
Stephen
team.
Binder. Years of experience, and I've worked with some fantastic people there in the last 8.5 years as well, who have perhaps not part of the team still. They've gone on to other things, still within the industry, some not perhaps, but also some great people coming in recently like Cal, Georgia, and an unsung hero in that office is a lady called Sue, who's the administrator. She pulls it all together, really. She kind of makes sure everything's sort of ticking along.
Did you feel like you'd come home when you went back to Newton Fallowell? Well, not went back, but went to Newton Fallowell.
Yeah, it felt comfortable straight away. It felt like where I ought to be. It felt like somewhere that I wanted to be. It felt like somewhere I was wanted. It was just a great environment to be in, and it all came about. Earlier in 2012. I'd had a phone call from a recruitment company. Little did I know at the time, it was actually, I think, David Spatman's recruitment company approaching me saying, we've got an opportunity coming up, would you be interested? And I kind of brushed it off and said, oh no, didn't tell me where. No, I'm all right, I'm perfectly settled with what I'm doing. Thank me for my time, and that was that. Then a free appointment, really. I went to a valuation on Hadley Close on Barrowby Lodge. Really nice 5-6 bedroomed house. And I walked into the appointment. We'd kind of got a signed contract there and then. And I was working for a previous employer, and I walked out the door, and another great operator, Jason Treadwell, was coming in.
The Treadmeister.
The Treadmeister, yeah. He was following me in, and we'd sort of spoken candidly, but that was kind of it, really. And we stood outside the front, and as arrogant as it sounds, it wasn't meant this way. I said, I don't know if you're going to do any good in the appointment. I've got a contract signed here. This was, to the way the conversation went, and we kind of had each other's numbers, and we kept talking a little bit. We'd sort of worked on a couple of listings that were joint listings where we needed to work together and collaboratively. And I think, from what I'm told as well, Gavin was also quite a fan of sort of saying, well, you need to get probably Tony here. So it felt like somewhere I was wanted. It felt like you were falling into a job which was just sort of custom made for you.
So how were the first 3 or 4 years at Newton Fallowell?
Well, fantastic, just the best. I remember The team was brilliant. We used to do all sorts, which were not just successes on the football pitch, if you like, but off the football pitch as well. With sort of evenings together. It was an amazing time. Working with some fantastic people, and I'll chuck into that name as well, Stuart Richards, who's with Purple Bricks, I believe, now. He was a very good leader and gave us all the autonomy we needed to be able to sort of deliver, but was a watchful and as a great sort of mentor and leader, really. So it was a very, very good time, and Stuart decided that the animal wasn't for him anymore, and he went on his way.
How did that happen? Because the number of people where someone leaves the firm who's an important, and it's almost business as usual, and they don't talk about it. Did they talk about that, or was it kind of swept under the carpet?
Yeah, a little bit, I think. I mean, I was kind of natural succession. I don't know if that's what the right wording is, but it's your branch now, and that wasn't the case for long, because it didn't fit right for me as a valuer, being out the office from sort of 10:30 in the morning till 6 at night and everything else. Trying to manage an office remotely is impossible, I believe. But what was great about people like Stuart is he was a fantastic lister, very good with his clients, very experienced, very knowledgeable, particularly on new builds. I mean, new build knowledge beyond anything I've ever known, and learned a lot from him as well.
So you were back to what you loved, which is basically sitting in people in homeowners' front rooms on a sofa like this, talking to them, enjoying the job. It really could have gone forever, couldn't it?
Could have gone on forever. And I've tried to bring, I think, some different aspects to it as well. I talk a bit about the client journey earlier on, but for me, what I wanted to be sure of as a valuer who was being paid a small commission on exchange, and if I hit a certain number of listings, I'd get paid an extra bit of commission. I wanted to make sure that the company was one of the first names that people were thinking of when they were looking at selling their home. So how do you do that is usually the question next, because of course the average, according to Zoopla recently, the average person in the East Midlands stays in their home for 17.9 years. Well, a lot changes in 17.9 years in terms of selling a home. A lot changes in that time in a lot of people's lives. So I started to deliver and add video content to the listings, because I thought, well, do you know what, if I'm talking to the market about our new stuff coming to the market all the time, it puts the brand out there, puts the name out there. And then when people are in that period of time, that 3 or 4 days where they're thinking about choosing an agent in the 17.9 years, maybe we'll get the call.
It's interesting that you said you took on the use of video in a estate agency. You took that off your own bat. I mean, not a lot of agents would do that. What made you do that? Did you ask permission, or did you just start? Just
started. Nobody's ever asked me once to put together a video for any brand I've worked for. I'd seen a lot going on with the way other industries were turning their attention to video, and I thought there's got to be something we can do here. Social media has become a big thing. We're talking about now sort of 5 years ago. So social media become a big thing. There was a lot going on with, drop my car in for service, I'd get a video back about what was wrong with it. I was doing post-valuation videos, should I say, where I would sort of perhaps just send them a quick 1 minute, 1.5 minute video, just summarising what we'd said and thanking them very much for the time. And I thought, you know what, this could be easily adapted to outside of a property. And this is how we met. I remember you walking into the office bold as brass and introducing yourself to me after you'd seen the first one I did on Hudson Way. That was a long time ago. That was chapter 1. 5 years ago, a lot's changed in the way I do that now. But it just seemed to me to be this thing. And what I recognised was that vendors loved it. Vendors absolutely loved it because it was different. Every agent's very vanilla, aren't they? We do Rightmove, we do Zoopla, we do floor plans, but yada, yada, yada. It could be the same company, different colours. And what the video did is it differentiated us.
Because memory serves me well, these are my figures, but I believe that your market share grew from around 8% in the town to somewhere in the mid-teens.
Yeah, I think it was slightly greater than 8%. You remember the old for sale sign analysis company? Yes. I seem to recall we used to have sort of 20+%, 22, 23% kind of market share of sold boards. A little bit inaccurate, aren't they? Because of course some sold boards go missing, some sold boards aren't changed from for sale at the time when the account's done. But yeah, we certainly grew, and what became very clear to me was that the distance between ourselves as the market leading agent and agent two dramatically increased.
What was particularly interesting is that you almost got too busy at one point and you stopped doing the videos.
Yeah, it's strange really. Now looking back on it, I mean, don't get me wrong, doing a video for each property, and when you're listing 30, 35, 40 a month is not an easy task because it takes time, it takes effort, it takes a lot of things. I think I got a little bit camera shy at one point. I think I got a little bit sort of, I don't know, you know, like I said, probably too busy where you're sort of thinking, do you know what, this will do as an alternative. You know, obviously you always say to me, done beats perfect. And I was thinking, well, you know, at least it's something done.
Yeah, you fell into the trap of moving images.
Yeah. And nowhere near as engaging. Nowhere near as engaging. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot you can do with social media to push this to an audience. But what I learned further down the line was that people like the video, not for the fact that you're just showing them a house, is it gets them sort of getting to know you a little bit, or like you a little bit, or trust you a little bit. They get to know the sort of person that's going to turn up at their door.
Because it's very interesting is that, I mean, I'm a Grantham chap myself, and everybody knows you. But that didn't come overnight, did it?
No, it didn't. It didn't. And I remember walking down and, oh, you do those videos on social media. I've only done 3 or 4, and I was thinking, what the hell, this is easy. You know, all you've got to do is put your face out there a little bit. But it doesn't come overnight. You know, that sort of turning it into a new set of evaluations to turn to a new set of instructions doesn't come overnight. You've got to be relentless with it. You do have to be.
Are we talking months or possibly even years?
Years, without a doubt. So anybody watching this now really ought to start, because they'll start seeing the benefit in 12, 18, 24 months' time, I dare say. I think it depends on the type of content you put out there as well.
I mean, what made you think to yourself, things need to change?
I don't know if there was a particular moment that I can draw back to.
Or was it a kind of like there's never a time when you fall in love with your other half? It kind of just happens.
Progresses.
Yes.
Well, there's a story about my other half, and I can tell you a bit about that in a second. But yeah, I don't know if I can pinpoint specifics. I think what became evident to me was that, you know, in fair play to Mark, you know, we managed to find a buyer for his business probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And you know, it meant that the way the company was formed and structured, I suppose, was changed subtly, not massively. It didn't turn into this beast overnight, just turned subtly. And I suppose it just sort of meant that we lost a little bit of that
family,
that culture, that family. That I don't know what it is. It became a little bit more. There was a lot of people, I think, who wanted to make their own noise, that it was about them, and the team feeling kind of dissipated.
When did you kind of think to yourself, things need to change then? I know you said it was a slow thing, and
yeah,
you weren't enjoying it. What was the first step that you made, and where did Sarah come in on this?
Sarah's always been very, as I said, super supportive. I think what I started to note more than anything else was that, you know, from the social media presence, there was people making direct contact with me via Facebook and other platforms, and sending you a friend request or a message which goes into your message requests. It's somewhere I check every day now because you have to be sure. And it was just people saying to me, Tony, I want you to put my house on the market. So
because you were doing all these videos, people were contacting you direct to put their house on the market. Did the penny drop one day, or? Yeah, it was post lockdown 1. So I think I returned to work after furlough on the 18th of May 2020, and I think in the month after that, obviously it was super busy anyway, the market was really heating up before the stamp duty holiday came along, and I think in the 1 month there was 6 or 7 came into my inbox of similar, and I sort of looked at the values of these houses and looked at the fees and thought, it's like £24,000 of fees then. You know, I'll get 240 quid when it's all done. So what did Sarah say about this then? I sat and talked with her in great detail about... Because you only just bought your house, hadn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary as hell.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of ducks we had to get in order from a personal point of view. That's probably what slowed the process down, if I'm being honest. This could have been happening a year ago. been an interesting time to launch post-pandemic. But we had some certain personal ducks to put in order, which would also give us the opportunity to be able to look at what we could do with our future. My wife's, she won't like the word, an entrepreneur as well. She's got her own she's a self-employed business as well. So she understands what's what, and I kind of just highlighted to her two benefits really. One was that how I think I might be able to buy back some time for the kids. I had a dawning moment in November 2020 where I sort of looked at it and thought, my little girl's 8 years old. Half of her childhood is done, and it's gone in the blink of an eye. And like I say, I've got a little boy now who's 3 just in May, and I want to make sure that those years with the kids are as enjoyable as they can be. I don't want to be known as dad had to work to put food on the table all the time, and I want to give the time at the times that suits them.
But what was the penny that dropped with Sarah, with all this?
Sarah told me that I needed to believe in myself. She told me that I needed to have the courage of my conviction. She understood. She saw people contacted her about me going to put their house on the market. So it wasn't just. And Sarah's really well connected, not just in Grantham, but towards Melton and the villages in between the Vale. And we'd get requests all the time from people who are sort of in Melton area, but of course because it's a franchise operation at Newton Fallowell, that meant that there would be a referral to the Melton branch or to the Bingham branch, but not something I could get involved in. So Sarah taught me that I just needed to believe that things wouldn't automatically stop, the tap wouldn't turn off just because I wasn't where I was known to be working.
When did you make the decision, let's do this, to start your own agency?
I think the honest answer is the seed was set probably in later part of 2019.
Okay.
I'd seen some noise about of different possibilities and opportunities under a self-employed umbrella, and there's lots of them about. There's not just the sort of two you automatically think of. Had some conversations, seemed a bit too good to be true, and furlough came about. It's a strange time because I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed spending that 9 weeks with real close contact with my wife and kids, and we don't fall out as a family anyway, but to spend that time educating my little girl, again, made me realise just what I was missing. Because whilst I might be working hard, obviously, for listing those houses till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, the only people that were suffering in my life at that time were my wife and kids. But spending that exclusive 9-week period probably reinforced to me that, I think there's more out there that I could do. So I think the penny really dropped. I think I'd sort of in my mind committed this was going to happen during lockdown back in March, April 2020.
Because if you don't mind me saying, you had a 3-month notice period, and they actually, they're not made you, but it's very rare, but you were out valuing almost to the last day, weren't you?
Up until May the 27th, that was my last valuing day, if you like. I gave my notice on March the 18th.
You must obviously think a lot of you that you're not going to do the dirty on them.
I hope so. I've got a huge amount of respect and trust for them. Landing that job back in 2013 was like a dream come true. It was a real privilege and honour to represent them as well for, like I said, for the thick end of 9 years. I really enjoyed the progress we made. I really enjoyed what it's done for developing myself. It was a real great experience. I wouldn't knock it at all.
So now you've set up your own estate agency, Tony. Interesting colour that you've chosen. Lovely pink, similar to your socks, very similar. What does the future hold for Tony Ruby?
It's a great question. One question that I'm probably sort of banging around in my head is, am I mad? But do you know what? There's in my mind, there's plenty of agents in Grantham who have come and gone. So again, that's why I asked the question, am I mad? But I do believe that the future is about delivering service of a certain quality that is very difficult for any other agent to replicate because they're based around volume. In my mind, there's people don't move that often, so it's not an experience they go through very often, and they need advice, they need guidance, they want your help, they want to trust you, they want to be able to build a relationship with you. What I want to build is an estate agency service, and I'm not a fan of the word bespoke, but a personal estate agency service where you become their go-to person. You become the person they can trust, the person that is seen, the person who will hold their hand right from the start all the way through to the end.
So what would your message be to Grantham homeowners?
I think the message to Grantham homeowners is this. I believe they deserve the best and the easiest transition from one home to another. It's a very difficult process getting from A to B, and it can have its ups and it can have its downs. We know that. But I think what people expect and would like is somebody who can give them honest, right advice from the outset. No bravado, no bull. This is what we need to do to get you to that next goal, and help them on their journey, get them on the way to their next family home, whether that be in the Grantham area, whether that be in the villages nearby. But there'll be people who are coming out of the first time buyer home into the family market in the Grantham area, and there'll be a lot of Grantham families who will be, been in their house for 20 years and they're going out the other end of it. And I think there's a real opportunity for a Grantham man like myself, who's a family man, to help those Grantham families make that move.
Tony, thank you for your time today. I've got a great feeling that you will hit those goals in 2025 and beyond, with the support of Sarah and your family, the people of Grantham, and the wider estate agency population, who I know love you to bits. So thank you for your time today. You've been inspirational. And I hope you have enjoyed the story today of Tony Ruby. And it is our intention for us to touch base with him every once in a while, because we both live in Grantham, and we'll do the journey on the understanding that it'll be warts and all, goods and bad.
Oh, absolutely. I believe in that wholeheartedly.
Thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me.